I'm going to move down to folder number 3, which is VPOC, or Volume Point of Control scans. There are bullish and bearish scans here. And what these scans do is look for a crossover today on the first scan, which means that the bulls are regaining control of the stock based upon the 10-period volume point of control. What do I mean by that? Well, let's go to the intraday version of this, which is right here. And these are stocks that are showing those characteristics. So this is Solid Biosciences. Now I'm going to bring up a chart which is down here in folder number 5, volume point of control. I'm going to go to my number 2 chart, which is the volume point of control, 10 buckets. In other words, there are 10 buckets here, and this is based upon 10 days. If you look down here, you can see that the color has gone from magenta to green, which means that the bulls are suddenly in control of this stock. This is based upon the price and volume activity from the last 10 days. This line represents the volume point of control over 10 days. It is just below the bar here, which is extended out the furthest, which represents 10 days. You can see that the stock was going down, which corresponds with this area right here. But when it crossed above this line, both the line and this other line, which tracks the daily volume point of control, anytime the candle is above this brown line here, it means the bulls are in control. And you see that that corresponds with this bar down here at the bottom, going from magenta to green. As you can see, this is very volatile, depends on the stock, but it provides an entry point for the short term. An entry point both on the long side and the short side. The way volume point of control works is if it's an up bar and it crosses through the multiple buckets, every bucket that it touches, it adds or subtracts volume to those buckets. For instance, on this candle right here, in this candle, you can see the green buckets. The volume was added to every one of these buckets if or when these candles touched those areas. Now on the downside, the volume was negative when you see the magenta buckets, and what's taken into account is only the past 10 days. So this is a very short-term indicator, but what it does is it provides us with an opportunity to get in early on some of these stocks. They may not all follow through, but it is just a trigger. Let's look at Kutera again, this stock that I pointed out in the last video. You can see that it went from magenta to green as the candle closed above this horizontal brown line and also the tracking line. So it went from the bears being in control here all the way to here. Then there was an uptick on this because you can see this candle crossed above that brown line, but it only lasted a day until we had a black candle, which is a one-day event. But then as volume started coming into it, it crossed above the brown line, and currently the bulls are in control. If you want to look at some longer term charts, and I only have scans for the 10 period, but I do have scans or a scan for both end of day and intraday with a 3-day window on the volume point of control. And my reasoning here was that if I don't catch a trade on the day of the crossover, there are other opportunities. Now here is Decker, for example, and this is 2 days since the volume point of control crossover, actually 3 days because 0 is a crossover day. And if I bring this up You can see that Decker's crossed over back here when it closed above the brown lines, and the bulls are currently in control of this stock. So I just wanted to give myself more of a window rather than limiting myself to one day or to the current day. Going back to the warehouse view, this is the intraday version, and then this is a 3-day window with the fan up. So this knocks down the number of stocks considerably. Let me compare these two windows. I'm going to go back to 10 period 3-day window. You can see there are 1,733 stocks, which is a huge amount, but Friday was a big day, so there were a lot of crossovers on that. But if I require the fan being up, it cuts it down to 398. Let's just take a look at the top stock here. And I don't have a fan on this chart, but the fan is up because it's in the filter, and I'm just looking for stocks that are in a strong uptrend where the volume point of control turns positive again. Let's try AstraZeneca and see what it looks like. It too is a very, very loose chart. As you can tell by now, I'm not crazy about loose charts. Too easy. It's too easy to get stopped out, lose your money. Now here is a housing stock, and all of these green instances are where the volume point of control turned positive, and the magenta are pullbacks or where it turned negative. Remember, all these triggers are based upon the volume point of control 1010. This window down here is strictly 1010. I don't have triggers for the other ones for the month and the 2-month volume point of controls. This is just those are just visual readings on the chart. What I like to do is scan using the 10 period crossover today, or look at the 3-day window crossover, then bring up a chart and look at the other characteristics. Let's do an intraday today. I'll bring up a different chart. Here's Alcoa. Probably not a very pretty chart. No, it's pretty ugly, in fact. Let's go to the 1010 chart. You can see how volatile Alcoa has been. So I would just go ahead and dismiss this chart immediately. I'm not interested in a chart that's loose. Let's take a look at Boot Barn. This is more of a neutral type chart. It was going down. I would have to check it for earnings and so on, but you can see it went from negative to positive here with some, well, this was on Friday, a pretty long white candle. It closed well off its high, but there's follow through today, and the volume bar is almost up to the 90-day moving average. So it would be more of, or should I say, it would be a possibility. I'm still not crazy about it, but at least I can see that there is interest in this stock. And that interest is based upon demand and the volume point of control. Now on these longer term charts on volume point of control, and I'll just look at the monthly chart, you can see over that time frame, 22 days would be the number of trading days approximately. You can see where support and resistance was based upon the buckets. So if I come out here to the longest bucket, or the one that extends most to the left, during this time frame you can see where the activity's been, and the highest it got was up here to form the top of this bucket, and the lowest it got was down here. So it gives you an idea of where the support and resistance is, and the thickest part is where most of the activity took place. This has been a very tough market environment, and consequently there are many loose charts. it's hard for me to locate a tight chart where we can see what the volume point of control looks like when there is sustained interest in a stock. Now what I've done for the bullish side, I've also done for the bearish side. Here's the 10-period crossover today. This is the end of day, and this would be the intraday. And you can see that a lot of the stocks that crossed over on Friday to the downside are continuing their downside move. The same scans are in here that I have in the are on the bullish side. Here is the fan down. These stocks are extremely weak if the fan is down, and this would be the intraday version of it. So you can look at both sides, the long side and the short side, for potential entries into a trade.